Welcome to Grew with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course the best medicine of them all, reflect on cherished memories, remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grow with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Grew with Portia. I'm your host, Portia Booker, and as always, please like, share, and subscribe to keep up with the latest and greatest of all with Grew with Portia. If an episode resonated with you, share it with somebody. If you want to be a guest on the show, you can email me at portiatheproducer@gmail.com. Once again, that's portiatheproducer@gmail.com. Those of you who have kept up with my journey know that I run grief groups locally. And one of the things that I often find with the participants that I work with is the magnificent changes that happen to them over the course of the 10 weeks. And I always stress that there needs to be more peer-led initiatives in the workplace as we're still coming out of the post-COVID wave. So today, everybody, I have the honor of having the Vice President of Innovation and Operations of a digital platform called Peer on Call, which is based on what I mentioned, having that peer-led initiative to really bridge that gap between the mental wellness obstacles that happen in the workplace and also creating a more holistic workforce. So welcome, Maggie Inrig to Grew with Portia. How are you today?
Great. Thanks, Portia. Really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Maggie, when I saw this come through my email, I was like, yes, I have to have them on to talk about this, because I think sometimes in the world, when we talk about mental health, especially in corporate spaces, there's this notion of So before we dive into the conversation, Maggie, one of the things I always love to start off with is gratitude. What are you grateful for today?
Oh, gosh. Today, I'm feeling pretty grateful for my health, physical health, also mental well-being today.
I
How about
feel
you?
it. You know what? I am grateful for life. A couple weeks ago, I almost actually died in a car accident a couple weeks ago when I was on vacation. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the obstacles I've had. As we were talking before our conversation kicked off, this year was 3 years that my mom made her transition. And it was a hard week for me. At the same time, I still show up like that grief that I have of both my parents, primarily my mom, making her transition. I'm grateful for it because it has taught me so much. Like, I think grief can be our greatest teacher, but that's for a whole nother day. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
You know, one of my favorite quotes about grief is we grieve because we love.
Yes, 100%. And that love is so abundant. Like, I don't think we realize the amount, you're going to make me cry. I don't think we realize the amount of love that we have for our person, for me, my mom, and my dad. And once they make that transition, it's like, where does this love go? Like, I want to tell you and show you all the amazing things that I'm doing in the world, and you're not physically here. So this love energy that I have literally has nowhere to go. I have to learn how to
Channel
reposition
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Channel it
Redirect
elsewhere.
it, channel
Yeah.
it, the whole 9 yards. And Maggie, like I brought up, when we think about mental health in the workplace, and I remember when I worked in corporate, there was a lot of stigma around mental health care and even, peer-led, if you want to call it, initiatives, right? And one of the things that I really loved about reading about Peer on Call is that it brings that human connection back. Because in the world of AI, there's so much, automated things, and where's that human to human connection, right? So Maggie, would you mind sharing with us the story of how and why this platform came about?
For sure. I'm excited to share the background around Peer on Call, and I definitely feel the excitement around peer-led initiatives in the workplace, which we're fully supportive of and behind. So I'm fortunate to work at Step Care Solutions, which is a not-for-profit based in Canada, but we work internationally. And our mission is well-being everywhere. And so we work from a model that's called the Step Care 2.0 model, which looks at a continuum of care and a range of services. So not just the conventional services that you see in a lot of workplaces, like employee assistance programs and traditional counseling, which have a role and are really important and we support. But we really work towards a continuum that provides people with options and choice. And one of those huge options and choice that we support is peer-led initiatives and peer support programs in the workplace and outside of the workplace as well, peer support everywhere. And so we were fortunate last year to be able to partner with McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, and they had led a research initiative around peer on call. So it was co-designed and developed and funded initially out of research to work with public safety personnel in that community sector, given the particular workplace demands for public safety personnel. And so they spent years co-designing, engaging people, hearing what are the unique needs within that sector across a number of different workplaces. So over 40 organizations were involved and a number of research partners, too many to even list, but has some great funders and great research partners. So obviously a collective that came together that felt really passionate about this and heard from so many people about the potential value of peer support for public safety officers. And so they co-designed an app, Peer on Call. And over the last year, we've worked with them on a sustainability model to be able to continue delivering the app and making it available, knowing that research initiatives often are time limited. So we're fortunate now to continue the partnership with McMaster and all the great folks who are involved, but be able to make the app available across any workplace. So we've taken all those lessons learned from public safety and continue to refine the app. And the app offers anonymous access to peer support within workplaces. So any workplace can embark on this project, this initiative, expand the offerings that they offer to employees to be able to have trained peer support within a workplace. And I think, to your point, it's the value of peer support is that it's people who know the unique stressors you have in the workplace. That might be really specific, right? I might be a lawyer struggling with stress at work, and I want someone who knows what that day to day is like. I might be a police officer who, I don't want to go to a general counselor who hasn't walked in my shoes and hasn't worked with my workplace stressors. So it's really about an option and a choice outside of traditional counseling where people might find and be able to choose a peer support peer who has some shared lived experience.
And Maggie, I want to jump back on what you mentioned about how this was designed for public safety. They kind of did like a trial with McMaster on this, right? And I'm
That's right.
curious, out of all of the different companies that you've probably interacted with, do you find that there's a trend with public safety or healthcare? Do you find that there's certain entities that are gravitating more towards peer-led initiatives like Peer on Call, or do you find that there's, depending on obviously the need and demand of the organization?
Great question, Portia. Yeah, and so the 42 and the work with Peer on Call was specific to public safety, but McMaster also did a separate research project with healthcare organizations, a project called Beyond Silence, and we've taken the lessons learned from both of those. I think there's lived experience and research that suggests that high stress workplaces really benefit from peer support. Although our organization's also done peer support for everyone across Canada throughout COVID. So not just workplace specific, but rural and remote communities. Every province and territory had access to peer support, virtual peer support. And so it's not just high stress workplaces that benefit from peer support, it's really anybody. Where we see a trend with workplaces are those who are looking at options and choice. So looking beyond just the typical access that people have had to things like employee assistance programs or one-off mental wellness or mental health initiatives, and are really thinking about building out, working with employees to build out what people want access to. And I think that's the trend that we're really trying to support: co-design, engagement, getting feedback from employees and from workforces. What are you looking for? Because it's not a one size fits all situation. People want different things for different reasons or different things at different times. There's been times in my life where peer support feels like a really good fit. and times where, you know what, I just want to access a self-help resource, or times where a professional counselor was really helpful. So having a range of options is really, really helpful and crucial, but also hearing from people, what are they looking for? I think there's so many reasons why people gravitate towards peer support, and sometimes that's for a common cultural experience, a spiritual experience, common lived experience, whether that's substance use, health, whether that's mental health, grief. I think that people have such a wide range of experiences, and different workplaces offer different space to either bring that forward or not. And so the experience of peer support can be really helpful to contextualize an experience within whatever you're experiencing.
And I love, Maggie, how you reinforce that notion of not everything is going to fit everybody, right? Sometimes peer support may not work for me when I'm grieving. I may want to just go to a general therapist, or if the stress of me being a new journalist, right? Maybe peer support of a veteran who's been in the industry can really pour into me and help me to reframe and reshape the way that I'm seeing the stress that's before me. So I'm glad that you really highlighted that, because I remember when I was in the first time I was in my J school career, and I remember the very first day I covered a homicide.
Oh, wow.
And I recall, and of course they had, employee assistance things, but I felt like a peer would have been better for me in that instance, instead of, just going to a general therapist who can maybe work with me through whatever trauma things. But the fact that there's veterans who do this every day, right? They
Right.
show up, put on their big girl underwear, and they're like, okay, we're ready, live in three. I think
Yeah,
about
I think the key, the point you made about in that instance, right? And it's really about what do you need in any given moment, and that moment could be this hour, could be today, could be this season of life. And I think sometimes when we talk about what supports are helpful from a mental health perspective, we kind of paint it with a long time frame, and it's much more fluid than that for a lot of folks. And so it's really about what's going to be most helpful to you at this time, and having some autonomy over that, having a range of options and choice. And also, I mean, sometimes it comes down to logistics. I want to be able to schedule something that fits into my schedule and not be dictated by who's available on the other end, or the schedule of a counselor. Let's say maybe my peer support program at my workplace runs day to day, and I know I can talk to somebody today, and that's going to be most helpful because it's available.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, Maggie, that's the piece with mental wellness that continues to me to get so blurred,
Mm,
because it really does boil down to, what do I really need right now? Do I just need a hug or somebody to talk to in this moment? Maybe I just need to take a walk out in nature and hug a tree for 5 minutes,
totally.
to get myself back to a state of I'm safe, right? So really, again, keeping those options open. And Maggie, one of the things that comes to my mind is when we talked about the human connection, right? And really bridging that gap, right, in the mental wellness space. Peer on call really does that by connecting employees with trained peers, as we brought up, right? So for people who are a little like, this sounds not up my alley, or I'm a little skeptical, what makes this model different from traditional mental health care services?
Yeah, great question. Because I think, we're all a bit trepidatious when we haven't experienced something or it's new. It's natural to want to check something out. And so, workplaces that engage and subscribe to Peer on Call and set it up for their organization, there's a bit of, an onboarding process, and we work with organizations to tailor it. The nice thing is the additional features of Peer on Call include videos, and some of them are peer wisdom videos. So it's peers who've recorded a clip. It might be a 2 or 3 minute clip about their experience around a particular topic: stress, mental health, substance use health. a workplace stressor, or hey, here's what it's like to engage with peer support. So you can kind of toe dip and just get some information if you're not sure. Or sometimes that's just how people want to engage. They actually don't want to directly speak to a peer one-on-one, but they want some information that might be helpful in the moment. There's also a range of resources and information available outside of the videos, as well as a check-in feature too. So, tracking your mood, doing a bit of a log. And so again, back to kind of how our model works and what we subscribe to. And that's why we felt there was great alignment with Peer on Call and all the work that McMaster had done with public safety personnel, is it's building out a continuum even within one program. And so you can log in, and within that, there's still options and choice. There's still things that are available at your fingertips. You can try accessing a one-on-one peer session, and if it works, great, continue. And if not, there's no commitment or requirement to follow up. Maybe you get what you need from a quick text message back and forth and a quick check-in. Maybe you have ongoing video calls, and so it's really tailored to what the individual finds helpful. And you can try a range of different things with no risk, really.
Maggie, I love that you brought up that there's different interactivities within the app, right? Let's say if I want to meet with a peer and I want to at least get a feel of their personality, right? What's
Right.
their vibe like? And there's this video of them saying, hey, I'm Jason and I'm here to, you know, walk you through whatever you're going through. My background is in construction. Maybe at one time I accidentally got a nail stuck through my hand type of thing, So, but you have that interrelativity with this person, right? From instead of you call what sometimes the crisis line, and you don't know who you're getting, right? Versus you get a feel of somebody through video and getting to interact with their energy that way.
Totally. Yeah. And I think whether it's crisis or counseling or other services, sometimes you call and you get whoever's available next. And sometimes that's needed, that's necessary. Sometimes that's a great fit. Sometimes people end up trying different experiences to find the right fit. So one of the things that we're proud of, and I think was really thoughtful co-design with the group that developed the app, was having even some biographies and information. And so you can log in and see all of the different peer supporters within your organization and then schedule based on your preference and choice of when they're available. But maybe there's a particular experience that you want to connect around. So let's say it's grief, and you're looking for a biography of someone who's trained peer support in your organization. They've gone through grief themselves. Then you can select that that's the person you're going to start with and see if there's a connection.
And that's, you know, there's something about having more information that gives you that sense of ease and releases that skeptical, hey, this looks questionable to me, Tarzan vibe type of thing, right? And I
Informed
love
decision making. Yeah, we all want, enough information to say, yeah, I understand this and I'm willing to go to the next step. So that's something that our organization believes strongly in, that um, we should have enough information to feel confident in
Mhm.
moving forward.
Maggie, one thing I'm wondering how peer on call is really showing different organizations, maybe there's a gap somewhere.
Mm.
Can you maybe share with us some real time feedback or insights from companies that have used the application that have shown different, if you want to call it gaps or areas that they could tighten up as far as employee wellness and morale?
Yeah, great question. I think, one of the nice things about the app is it's anonymous. And so you can choose to reveal your information or not. You can go with an alias and log in, especially in workplaces where maybe you don't want your peers knowing that you're accessing the support, or maybe don't want to be connected back to particular issues in the workplace. However, we can roll up some of the themes. And so workplaces can get a sense of things that are happening across their workplace. So again, let's say, a high percentage of employees are struggling with stress and burnout. or sick leaves. You know that that's an issue, and you can monitor it or maybe get a sense of it's higher than what we would expect or higher than what other organizations are. And we need to do something even more above Pure On Call about that issue. So it really helps give organizations one, just direct support to employees, but two, pulse on what's happening across the organization and where the range of employee supports and mental health resources are maybe meeting the mark or not.
Yeah, and I like that because then it really helps you as the organization really be able to tailor maybe a get together of some sort to help bridge that gap, right? Sorry guys, my dog is barking in the background, so don't worry. He has his own agenda. He gets a little jealous when mom is working, but that's okay. Back to regular scheduled programming. But like I said though, Maggie, like I think having something like this, especially since it's trendy, right? Because a lot of people are utilizing whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram to connect, right? I've seen more people open up about their mental health journeys, their grief journeys, right? And why not essentially meet people where they are?
Totally. And I think, you mentioned the human connection aspect. And again, people want to connect in different ways. People want mental health support in different ways, information different ways. So lots are steering towards chat GPT. And that's great if that works in the moment and you're getting what you need and you're getting the information you need. But some people, yeah, that face to face, one on one with a person is really important. And so we still need to make that available and support people in doing that. And the fact that the peer support providers have training and support themselves really enables them and equips them to be able to support their own peers as well.
Yeah. And I mean, what a beautiful way to really continue to open up people to share how they're really feeling, right? To really start to create a holistic workforce. Because I still think that we're recovering from COVID still, and giving people that opportunity to express really is a hidden, I want to say, healing piece that is often overlooked because the focus is based on what the business's agenda is, you know, and not all
Totally.
the time we talk about, those pieces of, hey, we need to hear the people who are the face or the ones that are in the trenches of the work themselves. Maggie, for our audience who's tuning in, maybe someone wants to bring this conversation to their employer, right? Maybe this could be an option for them. Maybe can you share with us what steps they can take? How can they, maybe bring a demo call of peer on call to their organization? What steps can somebody take today to make that connection?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a number of resources across our website, including an overview downloadable resource about Peer on Call. You can book a demo directly on there. There's lots of the background on research and evidence to why and how Peer on Call was developed. So that's all available either on the website or available for download. We're happy to meet with any organization. I think, there's every workplace is different. And so the employee is going to know best how to kind of start the conversation within the organization, whether that's a wellness committee, whether that's HR. Sometimes peer-led initiatives are developed ground up grassroots from a group of employees who are interested in that. And so we see it developing in lots of different ways in organizations. I think the one thing I would add and kind of touches on your last point is there's still a fair amount of stigma, right? Whether that's across society or within workplaces or within ourselves. Um, and I can't speak specifically to the experience of public safety personnel because I don't work within that sector, but we know from Peer on Call and from the research that there's specific stressors around performance, around coming forward with having a mental health and substance use health issue, and again, that's one of the reasons why Peer on Call is anonymous. But I know from my own experience, I shared with you earlier about the experience of losing my father in the fall, and I'd done a LinkedIn post about experiencing brain fog. And, you know, I felt a level of self-stigma around that and putting that out there, and sharing that with my workplace of, you know, it's been a month and I'm still feeling a bit foggy. And that's a perfect example of where a peer-led initiative might be helpful, but how we all kind of grapple with some of that stigma of, if I put that out there in the workplace, how will it be received? And how do we create supportive organizational cultures that can create space to bring forward some of those lived experience of what we're all going through day to day, knowing that we're not all at our best all the time, and how do we support people in doing that? And so information is available in terms of how organizations can at least embark on the conversation of, you know, is peer on call a fit? But again, within that range of what's available now and what else might employees want. It might be peer support. It might be, you know, access to something different. And we're happy to work with any organization to figure out what might work best for that context.
And Maggie, lots of love continued your way, because losing a
Thanks, Portia.
parent, I can walk that walk with you. And that brain fog is real. And grief is a whole animal in itself. When
For sure.
you're wanting to continue your everyday routine, but your energy is only at 10%, and the other 90% is you're grieving, you're sad, you're confused, you're upset, and you're wanting to perform at optimal level, but your circumstance has told you, hey, you got to take a seat and be okay with that. And I shared before we started that, my mom's 3-year transition anniversary was this year. And every year, it's hard for me to write her tribute post on her birthday and her transition day. At the same time, I still do it because it breaks me open and it helps me to integrate my grief slowly each year. Well, everybody, that was Maggie Inrig that you heard from. She is the Vice President of Innovation and Operations. If you guys want to get a hold of her and also learn more about Pure on Call, you can visit their website to book a demo call. And hopefully that also continues to keep the conversations going, because there's workforces, there's people out there that are hurting, but just know that there's options out there for you. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, that concludes another episode of Grew with Portia. Thanks for listening, everybody, and peace and hair grease until next time.